Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Sense. I'm Ben. Today we're going to be looking at just a banger of a fragrance that I, like, spoiler alert, really enjoy. I bought it last year, right at the end of last year. I've had a bit more time to wear it now and I haven't got bored of it. So today we're going to be reviewing Lune Feline by Atelier Des Ors. Well, let's go. So yeah, Lune Feline. I bought this right at the end of last year, and I kind of snuck it into my top 5 of fragrances that I bought last year. I'd only worn it once or twice, but I knew I really enjoyed it at that point. But I didn't really have like a grasp on it. I just knew that it was nice and I was enjoying wearing it. Now I'd say I've had a lot more time to wear it. I've worn it a fair bit more. I feel much more comfortable talking about it, so it's time to review it. It's really something special, but it's really interesting as well. So it was made by perfumer Marie Salamagne. I think that's how you say her name. She's done quite a lot actually. Black Opium, Yves Saint Laurent would be like the super famous one. Done quite a bit of work for Jo Malone, and By the Fireplace by Maison Margiela, which is, you know, kind of well received, and of course loads of Atelier Des Ors. So she's been around. She's certainly not like a noob, and I mean you can tell that by smelling this. But yeah, she's definitely a perfumer with some hits under her belt for sure. The notes in this one are it's generally considered a vanilla fragrance, and that's kind of what I find really interesting about this fragrance. But the notes in it, so I'll read them. So off the top we've got cinnamon, cardamom, pink pepper. In the middle it's supposedly got green notes, cedar, ambergris and styrax, and in the base it's got vanilla, Peru balsam and musk. And that's it. It's just, it doesn't sound super complicated, and I would say actually that's really a good representation of the notes in this. So let's give it a spray, and we'll talk about it, because it is a bit more than that. I have got the dry down that I sprayed this morning on this wrist, so I'll be able to sort of talk you through it. The cap on this Atelier Des Ors, these are the heaviest caps I've ever come across. I don't want to drop this on the floor to show you, but this is seriously weighty cap. The presentations in general are quite nice. They've got that kind of like the whole gold leaf inside them. The bottles they don't look super much, but they're really thick, kind of satisfying glass, which I really like. And the boxes are kind of standard boxes. You know, I'll just show you quick. Just, you know, kind of typical kind of slide boxes with a kind of seat for the fragrance. So it's quite nice. It's not like super special, but it's quite nice. Yeah, let's give it a spray and we'll talk about it. So let's go. Right off the top of this perfume, like I say, it's kind of classed as like a vanilla perfume by most people, and that's fair enough. But I think this perfume is much more interesting than that, and I would class it as a vanilla perfume. But let me explain. So when you spray it, when you first spray it, oh, it's so good. The top is such a good representation. Like those notes I said, cinnamon, cardamom, pink pepper, perfect. That's exactly what you're getting. You get a really strong cardamom and cinnamon. The cardamom is not that spiky, quite abrasive cardamom that you can get. It's not fiery and sharp. It's velvety and smooth, and it smells slightly smoked. It smells almost like a roasted cardamom or something like that. I mean, I don't know if you can roast cardamom, but that's the impression it gives you straight away. It has this kind of like smoked, roasted feel, and it's super soft, and it's sweetened ever so slightly, because cardamom itself is not super sweet, but it's sweetened by this cinnamon. And for me, the cinnamon is not like really strong by itself. It's in a really classically sort of way. Like cardamom has cinnamon and pepper facets, right? And then you've got cinnamon and pink pepper. So it's almost like that cinnamon and the pink pepper are just boosting what the cardamom is already offering. So the cardamom is offering this like slight spicy, cinnamony sweet kind of vibe, and then it's kind of just amped up just slightly by touches of either, like touches of pink pepper and touches of cinnamon, and it has this, say, like smoked, roasted feel, and it's smooth, velvety, gorgeous, and there is some vanilla in here. But for my money, the vanilla is not big, and this is going to sound really weird because it's quite a vanillic fragrance, and like I say, like it's a vanilla fragrance. But for my money, the vanilla feels very subdued, even though it's kind of not. It's very forefront, actually. It's a very sort of obvious vanilla fragrance, but it's done and blended in such a way that for me, the vanilla never ever gets in the way of everything else in this fragrance, and sort of takes a back seat, despite the fact that it's clearly the biggest note in this perfume, I would say, and it's this persistent note that's always there, but somehow it's done on this understated way, this kind of woody, soft, relaxed way that sets it back into the fragrance, and it almost just acts like it's a constant backdrop to everything else. You know, like if you look at an oil painting of a landscape, the sky is there, right? But you're not really paying attention. You're paying attention to the houses or the trees or the people in the foreground. They're what's pulling your eye, but the sky is always there, and it might be beautifully painted, but you're not really paying attention to it. But if you took that away, it would seem weird, right? That's what this fragrance is like. The vanilla is like the sky in a landscape painting. It's there, and it's obviously there, and it's there in a really huge way, but your attention just isn't directed to it. And it's so well done. I don't think I can explain. It's just so well done. So that's the opening, really, is this gorgeous cardamom, and it's honestly the best cardamom I've ever smelt in a perfume, hands down. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not just saying that. It hands down, this is the best cardamom note I've ever smelled. And then, yeah, the pink pepper and the cinnamon just back that up, and they might be boosting it and making me like the cardamom more, but who cares? It's done in such a clever way. It's such a great note in this perfume. It's done so well. And then really, that's going to stick around for a while. It's quite balsamic, and that's going to get more and more. And that's obviously provided by the Peru Balsam and the Styrax, which are both quite sort of balsamic. So to describe both of those smells a little bit, Peru Balsam is interesting in that it's actually quite sour. It's like a vanillic, sweet and sour kind of vibe, like softly vanillic, but it has a sour, sometimes pissy smell. I don't get it in this fragrance. I don't feel like this fragrance has any pissiness to it at all. But that's what, by itself, Peru Balsam can do that. But it is obviously it's done in such a dilution here that it's just offering this like sweet, somewhat slight sourness to the. And it's really done well. Styrax again is done really well. Styrax just adds like a touch of darkness, a touch of woodiness, a touch of smokiness to everything. Gives it all a bit of a kind of, doesn't make it quite so gourmandy and sort of teenage girl vanilla. It gives it a more grown-up edge, and also I think that's definitely sort of with the ambergris and the cedar, which I'll come on to in a second. But I think the Styrax does a really good job of just darkening and fragrance slightly. giving it that kind of smoky, warm, balsamic edge, and just maturing it a little bit and making it feel a little bit more like you're not wearing a 12-year-old girl's perfume, because this doesn't smell like it at all. It's one of the most grown-up vanillas ever. It's fantastic. But yeah, so then there is more to it than that, and as it progresses, I feel like it's quite linear, but not super linear. It does move slightly fractionally, but it's slowly. I feel like to get from here to here, it is quite different, but it's not a really fast or obvious big transitions. It's all done just really smoothly, and really, like, the dry down is the same as the top, but it loses some of that spiciness and some of that all of the cinnamon really, and it turns more to a softly vanillic musk and slight kind of ambery woods, and that, I would say, is the dry down. It has like a little bit of a dark smoky feel, but when I say smoke, and I mentioned smoke just now as well, it's not like a birch tar smoke or anything like that. It's really soft. It's really done in this way that rather than feel like smoke, it's more like just the entire perfume has been gently smoked. That's what you'll get, and it's really just a touch. So yeah, that's kind of the dry down, and it jumps basically from there to there, but it does it very slowly. So really, it just sort of thickens and thickens and becomes a bit more balsamic and a bit more ambery over time. That's, I think, the ambergris in this, which I think is really well done. Again, it gives it gives it a slight leathery, but I wouldn't say leather actually. I'd say suede. It gives it like almost like a suede-like edge in there in the middle, and there's also like it makes it just slightly animalic, but just a touch. Like, again, it just makes it feel just a bit more grown up, a bit more mature, a bit more good, sort of depth and dynamic kind of vibe. And also it does give it a slight sort of woodiness and like ambery feel. It's really good, and that I think is overall the perfume. I think that's your lot. I've just described it, and it's beautiful. It's from top to bottom, start to finish. It's beautiful. It opens with just the most beautiful cardamom. That cardamom sticks around the whole time. It loses some of its sort of pep and vinegar from the start, and it relaxes and becomes smooth and becomes a bit more ambery, a little bit more woodsy, but all along you've got this gently smoked, kind of slightly musky, vanillic sort of undertone to everything, and it's really, really good. If you like gourmands, this is like absolutely like the sort of thing you're going to want to try, because the vanilla in this, it is quite sort of cooking vanilla. It's quite, it doesn't feel like that kind of sort of sticky woody vanilla too much. It's more like something sort of gourmandy, but if you don't like gourmands, this isn't necessarily like a straight gourmand. It's very woody, very musky. It's got some amber in there. It's got smoke. Like I say, I think this walks like a really good line between being like one for the gourmand lovers and one for people who are not really into gourmands. Personally, I'm not like massive into gourmands. I do like them, and I do like vanillas. So I'm already kind of converted, but I'm not hugely into them. Like, they're not like my number one thing. And yet this perfume is really, really top tier for me. So I do recommend it to just about anyone really. There's a lot of hype for this perfume, and I have to say, in this occasion, I have to say I fully get it. I do think it's done really well. Overall, I feel like it just has this really solid velvet feel. Like the whole thing just feels like velvet to me. It's like if you had to give it like a texture, It's definitely 100% like just velvet from start to finish. It's the most smooth, well-rounded fragrance. There's not a single spiky element to this fragrance. Even say that something that could be spiky, like the pepper and the cardamom, no, like it's all just rounded perfectly. It's much more complex than it sounds. Like on paper it's a really simple fragrance, and to describe it it's really simple, but there's more going on. It's more dynamic than what I've explained. It's that there is a depth to it. There is that sourness from the balsam is there, and it's just not letting things rest. And that darkness from the styrax and the kind of slight suede animalic ambergris in there. It's not simple. It's they're all there, but in such small measures that there's nothing really smacking you in the face, which I appreciate, because I think that's one thing I like about this fragrance, is how velvety, smooth and understated everything is. But it's not a simple fragrance. It's really well done. I have to say, it's really, really well done. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. That's my description of that. In terms of who I think it's for, male, feminine and all that kind of stuff, difficult one actually. I would say it's kind of down the line, because although at first glance you're going to want to say feminine, because there is like this big vanilla in there, and it's very sweet and gourmandy and such, but it has a lot of woods as well, like it has a lot of woody vibes. The styrax giving it that kind of subtle darkness with the smoke, and the cardamom is, I wouldn't say cardamom is a particularly like feminine scent really. So, I think it's pretty down the line in terms of unisex. Yes, like I say, like you have to be comfortable wearing vanillas as a guy, but why wouldn't you be? So I think it's pretty down the line. In terms of dressing it up or down, for me, I feel like this is quite dressy actually. You could wear it any time, but I don't think you would want to. Like me personally, I don't mind wearing it casually because I really enjoy it, but it feels to me like one of those fragrances that you would want to wear it on like sort of more special occasions. It's just really well done, and that is not something that you really want. So it sounds stupid, but you don't necessarily need that every day. Sometimes you just want something a bit more relaxing and not so good, I guess. Which sounds weird, but for me it feels a bit dressy. It feels slightly dressy, and it is quite opulent and rich and velvety. So I do feel like it's slightly dressed up. In times of like time of year, I wish I could say it's for season, but I wouldn't really particularly personally want to wear this in the summer. I don't even think I would really want to wear it in the spring that much. Evening times, whatever. I mean, you could wear this anytime. Like I think generally especially if you live somewhere like England, I think you can wear any fragrance in the evening because it's never that hot. But daytime wear, I think this is really suited best to autumn, winter, autumn, perfect. I think that's where you're really going to nail it at home. But I mean, just who cares really, right? I mean, so I always do this in my reviews, and I always feel slightly like it's a cop-out, because although I do like matching fragrances to a time of year and stuff like that, I live in England, so by the evening, most of the time it doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, if you live in like a temperate climate like me, like you can get away with wearing this like any evening for sure. Even say summer evenings would be fine. The cardamom sort of peps it up and keeps it a bit more sort of less cloyy, so it would work. If you were in a hotter environment, I would suggest perhaps not at summer. It perhaps will get a bit cloying. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Lune Feline by Atelier Des Ors. It is, for my money, but like I asked about this. I asked Smurfy Girly, if you're aware of her channel, Claire. I asked her like what one of her favourite vanillas was, and she recommended this to me. And I have to say, like, clearly it's such a good vanilla. It's shot to my favourite vanilla straight away. It was such a good recommendation from Claire, like for sure. It's really good. If you're into vanillas and you haven't tried this yet, I would say just stop what you're doing, go online, find a sample, get it, because it's incredible. if you're not into vanillas, I would say not necessarily stop what you're doing, but sometime in the next week or so, pick up a sample if you can, because this is really worth trying. And like I say, I really think this is excellent. This is by far one of my favourite fragrances that I bought last year, and it's quickly becoming one of my favourite fragrances just of all time. I think it's just done really, 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 really well. I say I like to think that I don't overhype stuff. Maybe I do, I don't know. But for me, this is really good. I really do rate this. I can't find a single thing to knock for it. The projection, the longevity, the blend, the ingredient quality, everything about it fits. I suppose if I was to say one thing, it's quite expensive. That's the worst that I can think of. Everything else, this is really good. So yeah, that's my review for Lune Feline by Atelier Des Ors. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Stay healthy. I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.